Hi, welcome to Fridays with Father Ed, and we are doing the last of the fruit of the Spirit today, and that is the fruit of gentleness. Now, gentleness, sometimes translated meekness, actually comes from the Greek word prautes. Now, prautes is a specific reference to a book authored by Xenophon called The Art of Horsemanship. Now, Xenophon was a great horse trainer and warrior, and he prepared horses for battle. And prautes was used to describe a wild stallion that had been gentled, broken, and trained for battle. In other words, he was not weak, but he had his full strength under the control and obedience of his master and would charge into battle regardless of the arrows, the swords, the spears. Nothing would make this horse afraid. Prautes was the horse that would charge and put all of his strength under the control of his master. Now, this reminds us of the model of Christ, who said of himself that he was gentle and lowly of heart. He says, "Take my yoke upon you." In other words, submit your control to me, not to your wild nature, but let your yoke be mine. Submit your control to me and learn from me. He says, "For I am gentle and humble of heart, and you will find rest for your souls." Jesus explicitly points to his own nature as gentle. Praus is the word that he uses there in the Greek. And he invites those who are weary to come and rest under his authority, under his dominion. And of course, Jesus had absolute authority. He was the Son of God. But he was also a man who was completely obedient to his Father. He once said that I only do what I see my Father doing. But also consider how the demons reacted, how they trembled with fear whenever Jesus showed up. Because though he was gentle, he was always ready for battle. St. Francis de Sales says, "Nothing is so strong as gentleness, and nothing so gentle as real strength." Now, in our lives, a lot of times we need to exercise gentleness as restraint in the midst of conflict. Gentleness is most evident during moments of opposition or frustration, and it allows you to address conflict and offer correction without malice, harshness, or especially not the need to win at the expense of the other's dignity. Proverbs says, "A gentle answer turns away wrath, but a harsh word stirs up anger." Have you ever experienced that when you're in a conflict, perhaps with your boss, perhaps with your spouse, and you just want to speak out and say things that will, get you fired or put you in the doghouse? But a gentle answer can turn away wrath. It can de-escalate conflict so that the two can work together towards a goal, towards a solution or resolution that is good for both. St. John Chrysostom said, "Nothing is as powerful as gentleness. Just as water puts out a fire, so a gentle word cools a heart that is ready to boil over in anger." Now, a lot of times when we find ourselves in these points of conflict, we want to push others to do what we want them to do, or perhaps what we think is best for them. I think often of parents whose children are straying from the church, and we just want to push them back to church. Come on to church, come to church with me. And sometimes that pushing is counterproductive. You see, when someone feels pushed, their natural reaction is to push back. And sometimes, if it's a verbal pushing, they find themselves saying things they don't even really believe, but they're committing themselves to a course that they really don't want. And the only direction you can push someone is away. But if you want them to come with you, then love and gentleness draw them to you. It's love and gentleness that will draw those who have fallen away back into the fold, back into the Catholic faith. So when you're dealing with your children or your grandchildren who don't seem to be taking their faith seriously, remember, don't try to push them. Draw them through love and gentleness. Now, gentleness runs counter to most of our human instincts. We want to fight or flight. We want to assert ourselves into a situation as a means of self-protection. But gentleness is a gift of the Holy Spirit. It's a fruit of the Holy Spirit. And the Holy Spirit knows no fear, has no need to dominate or control. He only leads us in love and gentleness. So if we submit ourselves to the Holy Spirit and not to our own need for control, then the Holy Spirit can be active, and he can convict of sin, of righteousness, and of judgment. That's not our job. That's the Holy Spirit's job. St. Paul writes in Galatians, "Brothers and sisters, if someone is caught in a sin, you who live by the Spirit should restore that person gently. But watch yourself, or you may also be tempted." See, if we try to lead someone back to Christ, lead someone back to the faith, but we find them being stubborn, then we can become stubborn in return, and suddenly we find ourselves in the same sin that we're trying to correct someone out of. That's why we should always leave it to the Holy Spirit to convict of sin, of righteousness, and judgment. And here's some ways we can practice gentleness daily. First, guard your words. Before ever saying something in a daily conversation, especially one that's beginning to get tense, take a deep breath, say a prayer, and then choose tone and words that aim to construct rather than tear down. Not to tell people they're wrong, but to lead them in an example of truth and righteousness, truth and love. St. Paul also writes that as God's chosen people, holy and dearly loved, clothe yourself with compassion, kindness, humility, patience, and gentleness. See, we're instructed to actively put on gentleness like a garment, and that's part of our daily character. Mother Teresa of Calcutta, now Saint Teresa of Calcutta, said, "Kind words can be short and easy to speak, but their echoes are truly endless." And remember, gentleness must be accompanied with humility. Recognize our own flaws and limitations, and that makes it easier to extend grace to the mistakes of others. Paul writes in Ephesians, "Be completely humble and gentle. Be patient, bearing with one another in love." Gentleness is listed as a foundational pillar for maintaining unity within a community. St. Vincent de Paul said, "Gentleness, patience, and humility always conquer." Excuse me. Now, there's a great story, it comes from Aesop's fables, about the wind and the sun, and they're watching this traveler wear his coat as he's traveling down the road. And the wind and the sun have this wager between them. Who can make him take off his coat? Well, the wind steps in and he begins blowing as hard as he can. His thought is he's going to blow the coat off of the man, but the man just hovers, holds his coat more and more tightly because the wind is disturbing him. But then the sun just begins to shine, and the warmth and light of the sun cause the man to take off his coat because he wants to. In our interactions with others, we should be the same way. We should treat our brothers and sisters with gentleness, vulnerability, and care so that they will desire God, desire to follow the Holy Spirit, because they see the work of the Holy Spirit in our lives. Thank you very much, and God bless you.